Hello, my people. Last time I discussed on foundation in agriculture. Today I will be discussing on who is the agriculturalist. I have a vivid memory from my secondary school days of a debate organized by the school authority. During a debate titled Agriculture versus Medicine, the audience overwhelmingly supported agriculture over medicine. However, it's ironic that none of the participating students showed interest in studying or pursuing a career in agriculture. Regardless of one's profession, be it banking, teaching, law, medicine, or any other field, everyone has the right to practice farming and be a farmer. Farming is not just the responsibility of those living in rural areas, it's an individual responsibility that everyone should take seriously. Modern agricultural methods can make farming more convenient for farmers in rural areas. But for farming to improve, the community and government must also show interest in agriculture. Sadly, few parents encourage their children to study agriculture at the tertiary level. Even professors, PhD holders, and wealthy people prioritize their children's education in non-agricultural fields like medicine, law, pharmacy, and engineering. The question of who can be considered an agriculturalist arises. Is it only those who have studied agricultural sciences in school, such as economics, botany, animal and plant sciences, and veterinary medicine? Even though I have a background in industrial chemistry, I am passionate about using agriculture in manufacturing processes. Agriculture is Nigeria's pride and joy, as it is known as the giant of Africa. The symbol of green and white in our flag and coat of arms represents our country's agricultural land. However, we need to take action to show our pride. Why do we prioritize petroleum, oil, and gas over other natural resources? We must diversify and use all our resources to promote national growth. We must instill the values of agriculture in our youth and create job opportunities for thousands of graduates every year. However, instead of focusing on these issues, our leaders prioritize building hostels and embezzling public funds for their benefit. This leads to many Nigerians abandoning agriculture, and farmland is often left to become forest. I have a story to share about a successful agriculturalist from Nigeria. Akinwumi Adesina, a former Minister of Agriculture, worked diligently to promote agriculture during the administration of former Nigeria President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan Akinwumi. Due to his successful tenure as a minister, Adesina Akinwumi, who hails from Ogun State, Nigeria, beat 7 other strong candidates to become the next president of the African Development Bank. The election took place on May 28, 2015. In Abidjan, Ivory Coast. Adesina, who holds a first-class honors degree in agriculture economics from Obafemi Awolowo University and a doctorate in the same subject from Purdue, was named African Person of the Year by Forbes magazine in 2013 for his agricultural reforms in Nigeria, Africa's largest oil producer. In another story, Mrs. Halima Mohammed, an agriculturalist, called on the federal government to provide developmental incentives in rural areas to improve food production and curb rural-urban migration. She urged the government to provide infrastructure such as good roads, silos, electricity, loan facilities, and produce markets, and to decongest urban centers by creating job opportunities through agriculture and entrepreneurship. Halima called on the government to organize agriculture exhibitions and shows at the grassroots level and ensure a good road network for easy transportation of farm produce from the farm to the market. The speech was written on social media by Adam Robert Green. In a speech on the importance of agriculture, former Nigerian Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Adesina Akinwumi, lamented the country's shift from being a leading agricultural producer to relying heavily on oil. Nigeria was once a global leader in exporting crops, including palm oil and groundnuts, and was second in cocoa production. However, the country's agriculture sector has since deteriorated, leading to a rising poverty situation. Akinwumi emphasized the need for robust growth in agriculture to positively impact millions of people and reduce the country's dependence on oil. The agriculture sector has been hollowed out by oil and trade policies, such as tariff increases, export bans, and tariffs, and centralization of marketing of agricultural produce, have all contributed to a sluggish and corrupt private sector. Nigeria, once self-sufficient in food, has become a net importer, spending $11 billion on imports of rice, fish, and sugar. The Minister of Agriculture, Akinwumi Adesina, aims to change this situation and make Nigeria self-sufficient in food production once again. Akinwumi Adesina, former Minister of Agriculture in Nigeria, worked with the managing directors and chief risk officers of the country's banks to change this perception. He believes that if the inefficiencies and corruption in the sector can be addressed, agriculture can provide as high and competitive a rate of return as other sectors. The percentage of lending by banks to the sector has increased from 1% in 2010 to 4%, with a target of 10%. Institutional reform, rather than just increased public spending, is seen as crucial for financing in the sector. By creating incentives and involving the private sector and financial markets, Nigeria aims to become an agriculturally industrialized economy. Of course, you need public financing of critical things like infrastructure, roads, and irrigation facilities. Those are public goods that governments are spending money on. But the greatest way is through the private sector. By Dr. Adesina. To be continued on next week. How does agriculture contribute to the economy? Thank you for listening. Once again, my name is Adeboy Emmanuel Oluwatop.